everybody, welcome to another episode of the Migo Experiment. Yo soy Henry Flo.
Yo soy el Gallo.
Sandee Bonita, live desde Las Vegas.
I love her accent. QuickSilva, representing QuickSilva.
There we go.
Joshua Lopez from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
Yes, sir. Speaking about the nation's capital, we are here to discuss something very important. We are here at the Roundtable to discuss the importance of voting. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is a very huge importance of voting going on right now because guess what? Your decision and your actions actually get to carry out in different ways. So let's start it off. Josh, man, tell us about, man, how the importance of voting is to you.
And super important because we have a presidential election coming up right now. We have some very important Senate races, some congressional races, and even on a hyper-local level, council members are running for office, neighborhood commissioners. So there's a lot on the line right now in the 2020 elections.
As well, so do you think that voting and everything like that, how do you see the effect, man, of the Latino and Black vote will go ahead and teeter-totter this entire election?
Oh, it's going to be instrumental. It's going to decide, who the next, from a macro level, it's going to decide who the next president's going to be. Black and brown votes combined make up a huge plurality of traditionally Democratic voters. And if you look at it from a historical perspective, it was high Black turnout, high brown turnout that ensured the victory of President Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. We saw a dip in that 4 years ago, which is directly related to Trump winning. So if we're able to kind of get our numbers back up to where they were in 2008, 2012, we can pretty much ensure a Democratic victory this time around.
Quick, I've actually heard you speak on 93.9 as well as 92.3 as well here in the DMV area, man. Talk about how you feel about what the importance of voting is going on right now.
Let me piggyback off of what Josh was talking about. First and foremost, if you're not voting, I really don't even have any words for a person who says my vote doesn't matter, because I think it's a proven fact that when we all turn out in numbers in anything, we can affect change in any way, positive and negative, right? But one thing I want to focus on before we talk about the presidential election is the importance of your local officials. A lot of us, we get excited on the presidential election because that's popular, it's trending, whatever's on social media nowadays, everybody wants to talk about it because it makes you look fake woke, as I call it. But we have to be just as involved when it comes to these local officials, because the things that we're complaining about, it doesn't start on the presidential level. It starts with your local officials, your governors, your senators, your council members, your attorney generals, so many things that we're trying to get passed and laws. I want us to make sure we do our research and homework on all of our local officials first. Once we do our homework on the local officials, then we have to make sure we turn out for the presidential election. Here's a fact that if Black and brown people turn out for anything, we can affect change. Whether you're Latino, whether you're Black, whatever your race is. If we all turn out in numbers, we know we can affect change. And we know this presidential election is so important because I'm not sure we have any Trump supporters on it. If so, I apologize. I'm probably going to offend you. We have to get him out of the House. I always say that I don't care how you feel about Democratic, Republican. As we see, there's so many people talking about the Democratic vote and the Republican vote. But right now, it's just that what I believe that Trump is doing, and I actually spoke at the March on Washington, and this was the focus of my speech. I said he's creating a race war. He's creating a race war. It's not even about white people, Black people. It's just like everybody against racism. Like, in order for us to all come together, we have to realize that there's a common problem, and that's to make sure that we have somebody who's creating a divide now to bring us all back together. And we can't do that until we get rid of the person or the entity, because the presidency is an institution. It's not just a person anymore. The institution as a whole has been dividing us for a long time. And I honestly believe that we can affect change, but we have to always make sure we come together and do our research. I'll just piggyback on this for a second because I don't want to talk too long on it. Is that start with your local officials, and then let's work on the presidential election after you focus on your local officials. But right now, I think all of our goals, especially to my listeners, I say We have to get Trump out of that White House no matter what. I don't care how you feel about Biden or Kamala or Kanye, whoever else, but like we have to figure out what we can to get that guy out the house. And that's my 3 cents so far.
So Sandee, you being a Latina and as well too a trendsetter on the West Coast, amongst variety of ethnicities, including Black and brown all together, how do you feel that will actually take effect to like voting and on the West Coast, on Las Vegas, in that area? Like, what's it looking like over there? Is it more Biden Harris or is it more like Trump?
You know what? I want to say, because I agree with, QuickSilva, what he says. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I'm just trying to go with what I feel would be right, not only for myself, for my family, and for those that I care about, but also for the future. There's so many young voters this year that will be voting for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And even though that, you can say like, oh, this is the cool person or this is that, whatever. There's a lot of campaigns that somewhat have forgotten about that first time voter. So what I have been seeing out here is, it's like everywhere in the country. You can say you have your Joe Biden, then you have your Make America Great Again. One thing for sure though, is that I always want to encourage people to be respectful of what the other one thinks about, but also be able to acknowledge and be able to express themselves in an educated manner. Not only just, I'm not going to say I'm going for this person just because, it's trending or whatnot. Be educated on who you're voting for. And I do believe that one of the biggest things that we can start off on is obviously like the local officials. Here on the West Coast, I've always talked to you guys about this, that we don't see color, we don't see race, we've all been together, we all support one another. And it's one of the reasons why I love being out here, because again, if you're brown, si eres Latino, si eres Latina, or if you only speak English, we all come together when we know it's right. So I do hope that the turnout is great. But and speaking on the whole issue of being Latino or Latina, también we have, certain individuals that are able to vote, but just don't know how to do it, or they're scared of the process. And, for example, my mother, my mother, she's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm going to vote for the first time, but how do I do this? So it's a matter of just educating not only our young voters, but also, the people that are voting for the first time ever that have never actually been to the polls. So as I see it here, I feel like there is a lot of people going out there and a lot of people trying to provide that information and that education. And I really do hope that, it comes across and we do make a difference, come November 3rd.
Yes,
And
thank you.
I totally agree with you. And just to, piggyback on a lot of the points that, Josh, QuickSilva, and Sandee made, I feel the same way. This president has been very polarizing just across the board, just polarizing on both ends, I think everybody has to respect everybody's opinion. Me being, coming from first generation born here, my parents were very loyal to, I would say, the Republican Party, because they got their status to be legal in this country under Reagan, the amnesty, under the Reagan amnesty. So for a long time, they were loyal to the Republican Party. But as time went on, they started to see, that party wasn't, doing enough for them, and when they became citizens, their vote, changed within time.
And that's okay to do that. And I think
Definitely.
people feel like they're not being loyal to what they believe in from the start.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's you can be a Democrat, but you can also have Republican beliefs, or you can be a Republican, but you can also have Democratic beliefs.
Absolutely.
It's the fact of who is going to take care of you, who is going to take care of you, of your neighborhood, I should say it like that, your community, and overall, who will do the best for our country. Because honestly, at this moment, I mean, I honestly feel like we're in a movie. Like, I really don't believe this is real.
No,
We're
I
living
totally
through the
agree.
movie Outbreak. and I ain't mean to cut you off, but to piggyback on what Sandee was said right now, like I say, it's not about Republican, Democrat. I think for years, all of us have been trained that way. We've been trained that if my mom and dad was Democrat, I have to be a Democrat. If my mom and dad was Republican, I have to be, because I don't want to rub somebody the wrong way, right? We've been taught that. And I always say, you know, when you have a taught behavior, it becomes, you think it's reality, and that's what it has to be. But like I say, over the years, a lot of us who were Republicans, Democrats, independent, whatever the case may be, when you really do your research on politics and policy, and you realize you have a person in the White House right now who that when you have KKK and Nazis running over people in the city of a peaceful protest, and he says there's very fine people on both sides, or when he's doing a debate, and they ask him, can you denounce white supremacy? And he says, why would I do that? And doesn't do it. Like when someone's that blatant, now it's just right or wrong. It's just right or wrong. Like, I don't care what party you are. I don't care if you're a Republican. Like, you have to sometimes, and I was actually talking on the radio to a guy who was a diehard Republican for years, and he actually voted for Trump. And he said, yo, I have to be honest. He said, and he was actually a white male. I want to say he was in his 50s or 60s. And he said, I called the radio station just to say, even me as a Trump supporter is tired of Trump.
Oh, wow.
And that was heavy, because when he really went into detail, he said a lot of things that he promised us, it didn't happen. We see what happened with COVID-19. He said, I'm not a racist. I love everybody. He said, but I can tell he's definitely pro-white, and I always tell somebody, being pro something doesn't mean you're racist. It's just that I'm pro-black. That doesn't mean I hate Latinos or whites, anybody, right? But a lot of times when a person becomes racist or prejudiced, is that they're pro something and they don't like the other thing, right? And I think that's what I've been getting, is that a lot of his supporters, they don't like Latins. I mean, this same guy said build a wall because all Mexicans are drug dealers and everything. I mean, if you listen to just some of the facts of things that he said about Latinos, about blacks, over and over, about LGBTQ, over and over. Like, if you listen to some of the things that this guy has said, and I know this is not the purpose of the call only, a lot of people who were in favor of him are saying, like, this guy is just not it. Like, this guy is really creating a divide in this country. Like, this country was built on immigrants. So now, and not just that, this is the part that's so crazy to me. The guy hates immigrants, but he's married to an immigrant.
Crazy, right?
I'm like, are y'all listening to this guy? Like, I hate all Mexicans and I hate all Latinos, and build a wall. And if you're not from America, you can't come here. But my wife's not from here. Like,
but his personal staff at home are illegal.
Right.
Like, bro, really. But the whole point of all this, ladies and gentlemen, is because we want you to use your minds. We want you to go ahead and see exactly what is happening in this world. We're not asking you to pick a side, like for Trump or Biden. We're not saying that. We're saying how important it is for this vote, because it's clearly right now, you see what's going on. We've never lived this in the history of the United States of America. We've never had to walk around with masks around, man. We've never had to shut down entire cities to what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, we want you to go ahead and just see the awareness of how important it is for you to vote. 60% of the country on the last election did not vote. Do you hear what I'm saying? 60%, 40% of them voted, okay? And the Electoral College took exactly where the votes go and picked our president, ladies and gentlemen. So myself, Henry Flo, Joshua Lopez, QuickSilva, Sandee Bonita, David Gallo, we're telling you the importance of voting. Everything sits in your hands. If you're 18 years old, do your research, vote for the right person locally, and as well too as a presidential. That's what we're asking you to do.
That's
hey,
very
Henry,
important.
Can I say one thing real quick, Henry? And I'm glad you said that, is because when it comes to voting, like I said, a lot of people, and I think Sandee made a point, it's a lot of people, including celebrities. I remember Shaquille O'Neal said this is his first time voting in the history of his life. So there's so many people that are voting for the first time this year, right? But one saying I always say on the radio is read the room, right? If you read the room, there's somebody who does not want us to vote this year. Have we ever in the history, I'm not sure how old you guys are, I'm in my 30s, but in my lifetime, I've never, ever heard of the U.S. Postal Service shutting down during an election. I've never heard of, I've never, this has never happened. Like, this is telling you there's somebody, I can't say who the somebody is, but there's somebody who does not want QuickSilva to vote. There's somebody, there's no
It's the
reason
people
why
at the top.
there's
They
no
know that.
reason why there was a 12-hour line for early voting.
Yeah.
There's somebody that's trying to
Mhm.
discourage us from voting. There's somebody who right now is saying, if I make the lines long enough, Sandee won't vote. If I
Yeah.
take away the mail-in ballots, David won't vote. If I now say that, the postal service is closed and you can't do this, you know what, Josh won't vote. Like, this is somebody really going through
It's
the
all
room
the
right now,
hurdles
reading
that
the
you can
room.
think of. All the
Right.
hurdles that you can think of, the
They're
legal hurdles that you can,
right.
be still on someone.
They're doing
That's
this.
what's happening.
So if that's not enough to say we have to vote, I always say sometimes you have to take that negative energy and make it work as motivation. My actual vitamin of the day today on the radio was, a lot of times when you have naysayers and doubters and people who just don't believe in you, you have to prove them wrong. And now
Absolutely.
that's what all of us have to do. Right now, they're banking on us becoming so frustrated with the economy, with COVID, with injustice, with everything else, that all of us say, you know what, we're just not going to vote. And somebody wants us to do that. Our job tonight is to encourage you not to do that. Vote, because if that's not enough to vote, that tells you somebody wants somebody else to win besides the person you want to vote for.
You're making a point, because there is a lot of discouragement going on in these elections, man. How certain votes sent in through the mail are not going to count. So, man, it's just like, it's BS. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, send in your votes, go vote. No matter what the hurdles are, at the end of the day, it's just like all of our careers. You got to be persistent and keep going, even when they tell you not to go. You got to stay in line, stay there. Because if you're in line, there's a rule and there's a law. If you are in line to vote and they happen to close the polls, if you're in line, you can still vote, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Please know what's going on. Yo, any other words, man, for our voters that have to go vote this year?
Another thing that a lot of people might not know, especially in Washington, D.C., a lot of people did not know, and I want you to really research whatever city and state you're voting in. But in Washington, D.C., if you are a felon, you can still vote. A lot of people did not know that until this year, because that's not something they want us to talk about. Once again,
Wow,
read the room.
that's
Read
big.
the room. So if you do the research right now, even if you have been locked up in jail, you can still vote. They passed up, and council member, not sure, Robert White and someone else, I talked to him on my show. Can't remember the exact council member, but they actually passed a law that now you can still vote even if you have been to jail. As long as you've done your time and you whatever, you can still vote. So just make sure that someone's not telling you you can't vote because of your past. You can't vote because of where you're from. You can't vote. Make sure if anybody tells you something, you do your own research. Do not, if no one listens to anything I say on this Zoom tonight, do not believe everything you see on social media. If you see
Do
it
your own research.
do your own research. Just because QuickSilva posted it, it might not be real. Make sure
Check
I
your
don't care who
facts.
posts.
You have to use
facts.
this. You have all the information you need on your phone.
Use your facts.
Right here.
Look up in your city and state if you're eligible to vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you meet the deadlines. Make sure you fill out the ballots properly. Like, make sure you're doing all these things, because they bank on us not doing these things. They bank on us. They believe if Henry says you can't vote in D.C. if you've been locked up, people will believe Henry and they won't do it. No, do your own research. I don't care who it is quoting it. Make sure you look into it for yourself and make sure it's facts.
You know what, man? That's actually a good education you've done for us, QuickSilva, man, because a lot of actually convicted felons are scared to move in any kind of way when it has to do anything with government, elections, anything that has to do with just getting involved, man, with government, period. Because they already got the system, on them. They're part of the system. But just to let you know, QuickSilva just educated. You're part of the system. You did your time. Vote. You can vote. Don't believe the bull. Don't believe the bull.
Every city and state is different. I'm just talking to DC, like where I know DC, but like just look at your research. Whether you're in California, New York, wherever you are, just research. Hey, I've been arrested. I did this. Can I still vote? And it'll come up. It'll tell you exactly what you have to do, how you have to re-register. It'll walk you through the process.
Absolutely. I agree. That was, important information that maybe not a lot of people know about. And like, David said, we have everything on our phones. We spend so much time on social media.
Right.
A friend of mine the other day said, she's like, have you read any of the, the sample ballots that we got in the mail? And I said, actually, I did. I said, it took me forever. I said, to look up every single person, but I wanted to know exactly who I wanted to elect, which person would represent me to the best of their ability, you can say. So a lot of what you were saying of spending time and things like that, we're so used to getting things quick. Everything is done fast. So when we have to contribute a little bit of time, that's when our patience is tested. But right now, it's not about testing our patience. This is our future that we're talking about. So the extra time and the extra minutes like you're going to spend on researching these candidates and researching what the rules are in your state and your city, they are very worth it.
Yeah.
Preach,
I mean,
preach.
and voting on your local officials is very important. Like your local officials is key. Not only just presidential, like, you know, like everybody said, local officials is key. Like I know where I live at here in Maryland, like there's a lot of judges that are up for election. So, hey, I know when I go to court for a traffic ticket or something, I want to be able to know, hey, that judge is gonna, you know, judge.
Another
Equally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Quick story. My, just an acquaintance, their kid turned 18, obviously. So this is the first election that they're voting. So, we're discussing, certain things on that, just the young vote and how they're pursuing, their child, or encouraging them to move forward with this election. So my friend calls me, she's like, you know what? I think this is so funny. She's like, I have to share this with you. She's like, the other day, blah, 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 had jury duty. And when they saw the judge's name on the ballot was like, you know what? This person was so good to me. And I'm voting for them because they allowed me to, do certain things and whatnot. But it just shows that when you educate yourself, you know exactly who you're choosing to be in that seat or to take on that job. It's not just a matter of filling everything out. It's a matter of knowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much, it's just like any test that you would take, and you have, the little circles you got to fill in. If you make an educated guess, most likely you're going to get it right. So it's what's going on, Like the local elections is super important. I'm gonna keep it KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. You go to a DJ battle. A DJ actually brings people out to his place to make noise for him. He's gonna win. It's the same thing. You vote for the right people to be there, to stand behind you in your corner and go with your decisions that you actually want to do, or you agree with whatever the beliefs they have. They got you. That's what the whole voting, that's what politics is about, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we want to educate you guys, man, here on the Migo Experiment as well. Is there any last words from Josh, Quick, Sandee, or David you want to let the voters know?
I just want
to say that it's
we all try to talk at the same time.
Vote, vote.
I'll just jump in and say that the importance also of local elections also determines the allocation of resources, which schools get funded, which programs get funding, which programs get the support. I know here in DC, housing gentrification is a really huge issue, and that's why it's important to vote for council members that are going to make sure that those issues are at the top of the agenda. But this national election, I know everybody's talking about this across the spectrum, is super important because it's really going to determine the future of our country. Are we going to continue down a trajectory where white supremacy is asserting its control, or are we going to embrace the cultural diversity that that the United States has become over the last 50, 60 years? So there really isn't an excuse not to vote. If you're a taxpayer, if you can go out and do all types of stuff throughout your day, you can take a little bit of time out of one day every 4 years to go out and cast a ballot.
Absolutely. Can I jump in real quick? One thing that we didn't talk about tonight, and I want to make sure everybody knows the importance of filling out the census. The census comes every 10 years, and it came in 2020. So I'm praying that everybody on the Zoom or watching this filled out the census. And the census counts for about $4,000 per person every 10 years. So that's about $40,000 per person. If you do the math, that's millions and billions of dollars that go into your local resources. So if you're not filling out the census, that's just as bad as not voting. I know a lot of us, it comes in the mail and we might forget it, but that's very important. Please fill out.
It takes a minute to do online.
A minute, exactly. So make sure you fill out your census. Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you vote. Only thing I want to combat real quick is that something that Henry said. Henry said that if you're a DJ and you show up to a DJ battle with all your people, you'll win. That only happens if you're not battling QuickSilva. I'm joking. I'm joking, y'all.
No, you're not joking. Stop
If
faking,
you're
man.
battling QuickSilva and you show up 5,000 deep, I'm still gonna win.
Man, you shouldn't even be battling, bro. You was a legend out here, bro. So hey,
I'm messing.
keep it over there.
I had to get one laugh out of the class, man. But thank y'all so much. I gotta jump off because I gotta run back inside. But thank y'all for having me, man. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. Follow me on all social at DJ QuickSilva and check me out on the radio. My show is actually syndicated 3 to 7, so I'm heard now all across the world. So I'm not just on the DC anymore. I got a big syndication deal a month ago. So a lot of y'all might be your first time hearing it. Nice. But you now can hear my radio show in Baltimore, DC, Philly, Jersey, Delaware, Cincinnati, Columbus, Ohio. I mean, everywhere. And hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months, God willing, my show will be national, so I'll be in all 50 states. So keep your fingers crossed on that. That's my short-term goal, and that was my little quick shameless plug about my radio show.
Inshallah, man. Wishing you the best.
Thank y'all so much.
Congratulations,
man. And I'm glad to finally link with you guys, man. I know right now we're still in the middle of a pandemic. As we, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but the numbers are still here. They're still going up in a lot of cities and states. So everybody, please do whatever you can to be safe, stay healthy, take your vitamins, wear your mask if you have to. I hate it, but we still wear our mask. And do whatever you can to keep you and your family healthy and safe during this pandemic. And thank y'all for having me tonight.
Thank you for your time, man.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Y'all be blessed. Thank you, everybody.
All right, man.
Take care.
Bye.
Sandee, any words from you?
The same thing, just go out and vote, for my Latinos that are voting for the first time this year, or if you voted already, this is going to be, I think, my 3rd time voting, so if you've done it, just encourage the ones that are doing it for the first time, whether they're young, old, middle-aged, whatever, just encourage them to do it and help them out in any way that you can. I come from a very humble background, you can say, so it doesn't matter that they've done it a million times, and when I say they, is every single member of my family. They always seek help on how do I do this, where do I go, and it's just a matter of helping and extending a hand in something that is extremely important for not only you but for everyone around. So do your part, be a good citizen and a good Samaritan, and get to the polls.
You know what? That's actually very, very, very knowledgeable words of you, because, us being Latinos, we do have mamá y papá que dice eso. Hey, léeme esto, por favor. Like, it happens. But at the end of the day, if we actually do it without like, oh, man, you come in here and mess with me again, read it for them. It's something important like this, something important like this.
I'm the first one to say I get annoyed, but...
Léeme esto, por favor.
Mira, mandame un email. Yo no sé cómo mandar un email.
Oh my God.
I also wanted to add just one more point as well. We talked about the importance of local elections and even the national elections, but sometimes we don't even talk about the impact these elections have on foreign policy. A lot of us are first generation Americans. Our parents were born and immigrated here from different countries, but who the president is, who these senators are, who these Congress people are, these are the folks that make the decisions that impact the countries our parents come from. So we can't forget that connection as well, the foreign policy of the United States. So we should be cognizant of that when we vote people into office, what their views are of Central America, of South America, of the Caribbean, because that has a direct impact on us. I know many of us probably still have family that live in these regions. So just something to be mindful of. As Latinos, as we come into our own in the United States, now being the 2nd largest voting demographic in the country, we have a lot of power. We just need to learn to exert it.
We do. We definitely do. And it's a beautiful thing to see, I love anything that encourages or uplifts our Hispanic/Latino culture. And going back to this voting period, I want to encourage, everyone to get out there, because our voice, I was going to say our voice and our vote is massive if we only get there. So I encourage that to take place.
Yeah, man. David?
I mean, like just to piggyback on what Quick said before he left, the census. Like I know for the Latinos especially, like you don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to be. It counts for everybody. So you have anybody that lives in your household. It doesn't matter. They don't ask for your status. Just make sure you count because that's and anybody that don't count, that's money that is taken out. That doesn't count towards us. So just make sure everybody that lives in your house count. Count them. It doesn't matter if they're illegal, legal. Doesn't the status doesn't matter. And for people that are citizens that may not know the language and they're allowed to vote, just help them out. Help them out because I've ran into situations with family members that they don't understand their local elections, and you just gotta help them out. Like
Yeah, you do, man. You just gotta be patient, ladies and gentlemen, especially with your relatives who are Latino and who don't understand, but they are citizens that are able to actually cast a vote. It's super important to do what you do. If you're actually naturally born here at 18 years old or over, it's very important to cast your vote as well. Ladies and gentlemen, follow us as well, man. Thank you for being here and tuned in with the Migo Experiment. You follow me at HNRYFLO_DCF, just so Henry Flow. As well, too. Sandee, how can they follow you?
They can follow me on all social media platforms at Sandee, Sandee Bonita, Bonita. Yeah, and I would love, if there's anything that I can do to help you out, to encourage you. Yeah, I'm always here.
Josh?
You can also follow me on all social media platforms, Joshua Lopez 202.
As well, David?
You can follow me at El Gallo DMV on all social media platforms.
As well, too, you can go ahead and subscribe, comment below as well, especially if you actually have any concerns of what's going on, especially for this whole informational edition of the Migo Experiment of how important it is to vote. Go ahead and comment below, subscribe, man, and follow us on the Migo Experiment, man, on Migo Radio as well. Thank you for tuning in, man, and comment next week. Bada boom. Thank you for all y'all participating with us.